Okay, so it looks like most people have probably joined, so we are going to get started. So welcome everybody to today's webinar, which is about life in Hamilton, so your future home. And just a few little housekeeping items before we begin. We would ask that you, when you are asking any questions to us, that you use the Q&A section. So you'll notice on the Zoom platform, there's a Q&A and there's also a chat. We will be sending links out to you through the chat, but if you do have any questions, we do encourage you to ask, and you'll be able to ask those through the Q&A section. Okay, so the webinar is going to be recorded, so you will be able to see this webinar again in the future, but just know that the Q&A and the chat are not recorded, so if there are any links that you want, please just maybe open a separate Word file and copy those while we're going through. Okay, so first we're going to start with some introductions. So my name is Andrew Staples and I'm the Student Success Coach for international students. And I'm sure we will meet as you arrive on campus. And I'm going to now invite Annette, if you want to turn on your camera and make your introduction.
Hi everyone, I'm Annette and I'm going to my 4th year in social psychology. So yeah.
Great, thank you. And if we could have Prabjit and Hansika join us.
Hi everyone, my name is Prabjit. I'm an international student from Malaysia. I'm getting into my 2nd year of business.
Hi everyone, my name is Hansika. I'm an international student from India and I'm going into 3rd year of chemical engineering.
Okay, great, thank you. And we also have Anna, who's joining behind the scenes today. So Anna is the program coordinator for international undergrad students and oversees UHIP. So I'm sure you'll be meeting her in person as well once you arrive. So we wanted to give a little bit of an overview about Hamilton because this is going to be our future home for a few years or maybe more than a few years. So we thought it was good for you to sort of have a background of our area and a little bit more about the city. So before Canada became Canada, that you know today, there was a very thriving multicultural Indigenous community that lived where is now Canada. And as you probably know, in sort of the 16th, 17th century, Europeans arrived and colonized the area. And so at McMaster, we do recognize that the lands that we are on is traditional territory. And so you might see as you are maybe in meetings or before or any public lectures, this land acknowledgement that we do at McMaster. So McMaster recognizes and acknowledges that it is located on the traditional territories of the Mississauga and Haudenosaunee nations and within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. The city of Hamilton itself was officially established in 1846, which was several years before Canada actually became the nation of Canada, which was on July 1st, 1867. So next, we're going to invite Hansika back, and she's going to talk a little bit about what you can do in the city.
So as you can see, these are some pictures of Hamilton. We have the Westdale Village on the right corner, which is very close to campus. It is the area that the campus is located in. You then have downtown Hamilton on the top right, and there's James Street and Locke Street. A lot of good options for food and a lot of good options to just chill out, hang out with your friends. You're going to meet a lot of people around Westdale because everyone hangs out over there. So, yeah, those are some close areas. We then have the Hamilton waterfront. It is, so there's an outdoor roller skating rink during the summer, and then we have the ice skating rink during the winter. It is a place which is enjoyed by every Hamilton resident all around the year. The view is beautiful. The sunset's beautiful over there. It's just a very, very nice, very scenic place to be. We then have the Hamilton Waterfront Trail. So nature's very infused in Hamilton. We have a lot of trails, a lot of hiking options. People use the Waterfront Trail a lot because, again, the scenic route. It's a long trail, so people like to go biking on this trail. We then have the Hamilton beaches. So I think we all are coming from different parts of the world, and we need to realize that the Hamilton beach is not something that looks like the other beaches. It's not an ocean, but, well, it is a beach, and we like to call it the Hamilton beach. But even though the Hamilton beach can be a little underwhelming, we still have a lot of waterfalls in Hamilton, more than 100. Most of them are very close to campus. Most of them are very reachable through the bus. There's a lot of hikes that you need to do in order to see the waterfalls, but it's always worth it in the end. We then have the hiking trails. So the Dundas Peak gives you a beautiful city view, and it has a waterfall and a hike. So it's basically just a beautiful hike trail that everyone likes to enjoy. We then have the escarpment rail trail to the Albion Falls. So the Albion Falls is quite, I think, the biggest falls that I've seen in Hamilton, and it's very beautiful. During the fall, it gets really, really pretty. The picture on the slide is from the fall, so I would say definitely check that out. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Antika. So that's a little bit about the community that you will be soon living in. And so we thought we would take the time and also introduce you a little bit about the campus, because I know for a lot of you, maybe you've never actually seen the campus that you're going to be coming to. So Annette's going to walk you through that.
So the McMaster campus is located at the west end of West Elf Village, and it's opened in Toronto in 1890 and relocated to Hamilton in 1930. And the campus is small and condensed, so you can take about like 10 minutes to walk across from one side to the other. And it's a multicultural campus with students coming over from 120 countries. And I'm going to introduce some main buildings on campus. So the first one is L.R. Wilson Building. It's a new home for Faculty of Social Science and Humanities. And there's interactive classrooms, student commons, cafes, study and meeting rooms, and extended green landscape. And I had a lot of classes in this building. I really loved it because I really get a lot of chances to make discussions with my friends and my classmates. And the second one is MDCL, which is right beside the Wilson Building. And so as you can see, I use an acronym when addressing this building name. That's what people do in McMaster. And the third one is ETB. It's for the first year engineering program for Walter G. Booth School of Engineering Practice, the McMaster School of Biomedical Engineering, and the Mohawk and McMaster Bachelor of Technology Partnership. They had most classes in this building. And this is JHE. It's built in 1959. And the ring in the front, it's a simple end of directing newly qualified Canadian engineering towards a consciousness of their profession and its social significance. So if you see this ring in front of this building, it's probably JHE. And this is BSB. It's right beside JHE, and there are a lot of labs on the upper floor. And DSB is one of the buildings which makes up the art quad. And this is where some of the commerce or MBA classes is located at. And we have DBAC. It's the athletic center, which provides different kind of facilities for sports. Like there's drop-ins for basketball, badminton, there's also a swimming pool. And all full-time undergrad students will have the Pulse membership included in the student activity. And it's a nice place to go weekly and also meet people in the drop-in programs. And the Student Success Center is which the International Student Service is under, and it provides workshops and resources that are needed to help you achieve your immediate and future goals. And it's located in Glymer Hall, so you can come check us out. And some other campuses is Rowan Joy Center. It's located in Burlington for DeGroote School of Business MBA and Executive Education programs, and there are shuttle buses available from the main campus to that place. And the McMaster Center of Continuing Education and the David Bailey Health Science Center is located in downtown Hamilton, and McMaster Innovation Park in Westdale.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Annette. So hopefully that helps you sort of understand maybe where some of your classes are going to be, or at least where your faculty will be when you're attending. So we do have one question here about transit. So getting a bus pass or bus tickets for yourself as a student, and then what is available to family if you're bringing family over. So in the chat, I'm posting some links that will talk a little bit about transit. So students may be sort of automatically enrolled and charged for the HSR bus. And so the HSR bus is the Hamilton Street Railway. We actually don't have a railway, but that's just what we call it. It's our bus system. And so for students that are paying that, that would be for unlimited rides using the Hamilton bus service within the city of Hamilton. And so that would only be for students. If you're coming with family or with children, they would be required to pay the regular normal fare. So there is a discount for children. There's this discount for students. But if you're coming with a spouse, they'd be paying full adult fare. Now, if you are traveling between different cities, you would not be using the HSR. You would be using what we call Go Bus. And so the Go Bus, I believe post-secondary students can get about a 15 or 17% discount. However, for your family and friends, or sorry, your family and children, they would have to pay the regular fare. So again, I posted some links in the chat that you can read a bit more about that. Okay, and then we have another question here about can graduate students get on-campus housing? So no, on-campus housing is just for undergraduate students. Now we did have a webinar dedicated just to housing. So if you haven't started searching for housing yet, or you've got further questions about what your options are or where on campus you can look, I would suggest, I just posted, it didn't show up very clearly, but there's a second link there to the ISS website that has the recordings on webinars, or sorry, the webinar recordings on housing. Okay, so next we're going to talk a little bit about maybe some norms that you're going to experience in Canadian culture. And so I'm going to invite Hansika to come on back and speak a little bit about those.
So the Canadian culture is very individualistic. It is something that makes Canadians not identify themselves as a large group of people, but more to the self. We have two official languages, English and French. There's 1 out of 5 Canadians that were not born in Canada, which means there's so much diversity. And the Canadians are very proud to be different from the United States. Just because there are so many cultures, we have a lot of different types of foods in grocery stores. Hamilton has a lot of food options available when it comes to restaurants as well. The International Student Services runs Hamilton One Bite at a Time, which is an event where people pay a minimal minimal amount of money, and we go to different restaurants that serve foods from different cultures and we try them out, because sometimes we really want to try something new, but we can never do it because we don't know what to order, or sometimes the things are way too expensive. So this is a good way if you are a foodie and you want to try something new, along with some more international students. The manners. So we often say sorry and thank you. I would just say that all the time. So I come from a country, especially from a city, where there's so many people that bumping into each other is just so normal. But here, when I came and everyone, like, I will bump into someone, they're just sort of sorry at me, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what I did wrong. And like, I understood that the Canadians really respect your personal space. There's certain amount of space always left, even when you're in a line. So that's very basic when it comes to the etiquettes in Canada. So I think that transition of saying sorry and thank you just comes very naturally because everyone around you is doing that. Holding the door for the person behind you. Sometimes you just hold the door and there's no one behind you because you're so used to doing that. But you will see a lot of people around campus doing that for you. Maintaining eye contact, people would walk past you, look at you, and smile at you. It's not something that is seen as wrong in this country, and it's very, very normal. As long as you're not staring, maintaining eye contact is not a big deal in Canada. We then have the Canadian vocabulary. So, well known for the A after the sentence. It's very slang, it's very natural, comes with the flow of the conversation, I would say. So when you say, the weather's nice, eh? So it comes with the flow, I guess. We then have Timmy's, which is Tim Hortons, which is the largest coffee chain in Canada. You will find it at every corner. There are 2 on campus. Double is basically just a type of coffee where you have 2 parts of cream and 2 parts of sugar in your coffee. There's loonies and toonies. So the coins that the Canadians use, $2 is called a toonie, and then $1 is called a loonie. Toque is a cap, as you can see on the slide in the right corner. It's basically just a normal hat that you were going to use when it's winter. Canadians call it a toque. So if someone says, oh, where's your toque? It just means that, where's your hat? The Hamilton Mountain, you will see that being said all around campus because people would be commuting as well. There are students who study at McMaster and live in Hamilton. Most of them live up the mountain. So that mountain is not really a mountain. It's basically just an elevated plain, and people reside over there, and that is why it's just called the Hamilton Mountain, not really a mountain. We then have the sorting of your waste. So we're very considerate about sustainability. We give a lot of importance to nature, a lot of importance to recycling. So the green bins would be all of your compostable and organic waste. So all of the food that wasn't eaten or anything at all that's compostable. The blue bins are separated in 2 parts. There's plastic and metals, and then there's paper and paper products. And then there's the black bin, which is all of the other garbage. You will see all of the garbage on campus being segregated all the time. There will be 2 bins no matter what. So definitely look at that. Don't be oblivious about it. We all should save the environment. So yeah, take that into consideration. We then have, Annette can have that.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. I believe some of us will have expectations of how Canadian loves the nature and animals are cute here. So maybe that's what you expect for what the squirrel looks like. But in reality, it's everywhere. You could bump into one, like even on campus, just by sitting on those benches outside, or even in parks, like running over. And maybe that's how you expect what a raccoon looks like, or the one in the Avenger. But in reality, like they're cute, but they would dig through a trash. So this recently it just happened to me. Like my neighbor's trash I think it just got digged over by a raccoon, and then like garbages are everywhere, and it attracts other animals, and then like they probably have to clean up their mess and wait until next week before the garbage is being collected. So if you're living off campus, keep that in mind to really secure the garbage, or even like just bring it out the next morning before it's being collected. And maybe that's how you expect how a Canada geese looks like, but they will attack you if you walk too close to them. And like there's everywhere too, especially we've seen geese in downtown Toronto, or even like in Waterloo, like close by. And this is how you might expect what a winter looks like, but in reality, it's probably the same as your expectation. It's really cold. It gets really snowy. There's snowstorms, and then you have to shuffle your driveway and the sidewalk. Yeah, so get ready. Wear your large jackets and your snow boots before going out. And I'm going to talk more about the tax and tipping as well. So the price listed in the menu or price tags does not include the HST. It's 30% added when you pay. So tipping is normally expected at restaurants where you're being served at your table. And it's common but optional with delivery of food, haircuts, tip jars, and for taxis or Ubers. And it's not required at grocery stores or retails. And it's normally 10 to 18% depending on the service. And the Canadian money looks like that on the photo, and it comes in 5, 10, 20, 50, and $100. And it's made out of plastic, but not paper. And people here normally pay with like debit or credit card. So yeah. And then there is also coins on the right side with like the names people use in Canada. And then we do round up the price to the nearest 5 cents when paying cash only, but not like debit or credit card. So I'll give two example. If a notebook is $10.23, you'll have to pay $10.25. But if the notebook is $10.22, you'll round down to $10.20. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Annette. So another thing that's important to know while you're living in Canada is that in Canada, there's lots of laws that protect individuals based on your human rights. And so when you're here, as was mentioned earlier, Canada can be a very diverse place. So we have students from over 120 countries on campus. So you might see people that are older than you in your classes or younger than you. You might see students that have visible disabilities or disabilities that you can't see. And so just be aware that while you're in Canada, we do have a lot of laws to protect you against discrimination. But this also means that you have to be respectful of other people's beliefs. So while you're here, you might be exposed to beliefs that are different from sort of what is normal in your culture. And just know that in Canada, we are really proud of being able to respect and tolerate others' beliefs. So because of this, there are a lot of opportunities for you to sort of celebrate and get involved with maybe some home cultural activities. So there are lots of different cultural clubs, religious clubs, spiritual clubs, and you will see different celebrations for different faith groups on campus. And so just like these laws are created to protect you, this also means that you have to follow these laws and make sure that you are being respectful to others. If at any point while you're here, you're feeling that, maybe you're not being treated quite fairly, do know that even though you're not Canadian citizens, you are here studying in Canada, and so these laws do apply to you. And so at McMaster, we do have the Equity and Inclusion Office. So just keep that in mind. Hopefully there won't be any issues. Again, it is a very diverse campus, but we want to make sure that you do feel safe while you're here. So June is, let me just move my mouse here. Okay, so June is Pride Month in Canada. And so if you are here next year, you will see a lot of people celebrating Pride. And so Canada really recognizes the importance of respecting people's gender identity and sexual orientation. And so on campus, there are a lot of supports for individuals that identify. And so we have the Pride Community Center, and we also have a Women's and Gender Equity Network. So while you're here, you might see things, again, that might be different or might even be kind of a surprise to you, or might even be things that you've never even thought of. And so as you're living in Canada, you may start to experience what we call culture shock. And so this is really when you're starting to see things that are very, very different, and it makes you maybe miss home. So you might feel homesick. You might get really irritable based on, certain cultural trends that happen in Canada. You might feel stressed. You might start to feel sad, and this is completely normal. I know I used to teach English in Korea, and sort of as Hansika alluded to, in Canada, people's personal space and is very important. If you bump into somebody, you say sorry. The city I was living in Korea had about 5 million people, and so the population density was really close. And I can just remember some days, it was so difficult for me. Everyone was just doing their normal thing, but for me, because people were closer to me, and as a Canadian, I'm used to people giving me some distance, I found myself quite irritable in those situations. So know that this is totally normal and it's expected. It might happen day one for you. It might not happen until after you've been here for a year. But just be aware that culture shock is something that's sort of expected when you're moving to a new environment. So we do have some resources to help you adapt to this life. And it's really important to remember that it takes a lot of time to adapt to a new culture. So for those of you who are undergrad students or exchange students and you're paired with a buddy, please know that, it's good, and you can talk to your buddy about, why are Canadians doing this? Is this normal? Why am sort of, how do I sort of cope with some of these maybe different cultural values? If you've got friends or roommates, it's perfectly okay to, talk about these feelings and sort of share your maybe frustrations or that you miss home. Myself, so I am here to support you through your transition at McMaster. So if you do have any questions, big or small, or if you're just feeling, I need someone to talk to, please feel free to come and reach out to me. I've lived abroad and I've studied abroad and worked abroad, so I do know sort of what this experience is like. It is really important to also keep in touch with your friends and family back home. So make sure that just because you're here, with technology, it can be very easy to maintain those connections, and that's very important. So Anna, who's hiding in the background, she runs some amazing, really, really incredible events, and we would encourage you to come out to those, get involved, meet other international students, because that really helps you when you're adapting to life here. And it's also really important to remember about your health and well-being. So of course, your academics are important, but finding that that balance that makes sure that you are enjoying your experience here, and you are taking care of yourself. So please just sort of keep that in mind as you are sort of going through the journey of arriving to Canada and settling here. Okay, so we do have a few questions, so I'm just going to take a minute and answer these. So one is asking about the recordings. So yeah, recordings are going to be available. And again, I'll post that link right now. So we have had two other webinars. One was on housing, one was on pre-departure, which covered things like study permits, health insurance, what to pack, that kind of stuff. So if you go to that link that's posted there in the chat, you will be able to see the recordings. The recording of this webinar hope to be up maybe by early or mid next week. So how to prepare for Canada's weather. So this depends on where you are coming from. So if you're coming from a region of the world that has a colder climate similar to Canada, you might feel okay bringing some of your winter clothes with you. If you're coming from a climate that just simply does not have the weather like we do, it can get down to -20, -25 in the wintertime. It might be advisable just to wait and buy winter clothes when you're here that will be acceptable for you with the weather that we've got. Okay, so next, I think we are bringing it back to Annette, who's going to talk a little bit more about food, because that's really important while you're living here.
So while on campus, there are over 20 locations with diverse choices across, including halal, vegetarian, vegan options, and more. And there will be coffee shops like Starbucks or Timmy's for you to get coffee or snacks during break times or between your classes. And you can use your meal plan at most locations on campus. So I believe Andrew is sending the links to meal plans. And then I know there are a few locations where you can use your meal plan off campus, which is located in Westdale. And it's only a 10 to 20 minutes walk, and there are different kind of foods and drinks to buy, like bubble tea, there's kick shops, there's pho, and then for off campus, there's still Lock Street and James Street North. There are different variety of cafes, restaurants, and some shops to just look inside. This is where all foodies should go and explore on. Those foods are really good. And in Canada, or more specifically in Hamilton, there's a variety of cultural food you can try, like Italian food, pho, and I was eating out with my friends in Lock Street, Italian food. It was definitely perfect. And cultural food here are not as authentic. They're not like food from home. The taste of food is slightly different than the ones at home, but it definitely can satisfy your missing home flavor. And for grocery shopping, there are a few that is within walking distance. Food Basics, Fortino's, Nations, and Shoppers Drug Mart. And then you can get a discount with your McMaster ID on a few days. So you better mark that down. And I know there are shuttle buses from the school to Fortino's every Tuesday night as well. And there are a lot of cultural foods for you to buy, as it's a multicultural country, but choices are really limited. So recently when I came back from home, I brought a Korean branded instant noodle because I know it's not available in Canada. So although you can buy it back home. And I wanted to give some examples of what is the price of food in Canada. So for a dozens of egg, it's $3.19 per box. And then for chicken drumsticks, it's estimated about $7.63. And then for an apple, it's about $2.49 per pound. And transportation is another important thing. So what Andrew just said, there's a HSR bus pass included in the tuition, and it's loaded in the Presto card. So you can take the bus around. And there are stations within the school, and then there's a lot of bus routes. For example, there's 4 or 5 bus routes that stop either outside or goes into the school. And there's Go Bus, which is for long distance rides, going to Burlington, downtown Toronto, or the airport. And for students, you can use Presto cards or either buy a ticket. And the third one, which is Sobi Bike, it's a bike share. You can rent a bike and return to any bike hubs anywhere in Hamilton. And there's a cooperative program with McMaster, and you can get more benefits from it. So I believe Andrew just posted the link for it too. It's really great. You can just bike everywhere in Hamilton and then just put down your bike. You don't even have to buy a bike to ride around. And Canada has 4 very distinct seasons. During summer, it can get up to 35 degrees, and there's also, the sun is pretty strong, so sunglasses might be needed. And during winter, the temperature can go as low as -25 without wind chill. So wind chill is the sensation of cold felt by the body on exposed skin due to the wind. So it's really windy, you'll need a toque, gloves, or mittens. And like sharing my experience, my phone died because I was holding it on my hand while I was waiting for my bus. So like maybe putting it in the front pocket and not like the pocket outside, so your phone won't die. And there will be large snowbanks when there's like snowstorms, like especially by the roadside. You'll have to leap over the snowbank to cross the road if it's really high. And when it melts, it becomes like a gray slush on the floor, and it's puddle and it's really dirty. And sometimes road and sidewalks can be icy because snow melts and then it gets cold again, it gets frozen on the floor, and then maybe sometimes it's worse, it snows again, so it covers this icy puddle. So sometimes you have to watch out for ice on the floor. If not, you'll slip, and then yeah, you have to get to the doctor and stuff like that.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Annette. So next we're going to talk a little bit about sort of your health and safety. So one thing that might be different from your home country, so you must be 19 years or older in order to consume alcohol, cigarettes, or cannabis. So cannabis consumption is legal in Canada. And so we know that this might be something that's new to you based on where you're coming from. So we really would like to emphasize the importance of responsible substance use, as well as what some of those consequences are. So we do have resources on campus to sort of help educate you in terms of what safe consumption is. In Canada, it is fairly strict in terms of where you can consume. So you cannot have any alcohol at all in any public places, so parks, streets, on campus, on your front yard, and certainly not certainly not while driving, but even if you're a passenger in a vehicle, you cannot have any open alcohol. And you are not able to smoke in really any indoor spaces. So if you go to a restaurant, if you go to a bar, everything is no smoking. It is really important that you are aware that in Canada, unfortunately, there are people that are trying to scam and fraud you, not you as international students, but just people in general. But sometimes international students, because they're new, they might not be aware of some of the sort of typical scams. So one that's very common is getting a phone call or a text message from the Canada Revenue Agency, which is the Canadian sort of tax agency, saying that you owe money or you have to give your banking information, things like that. If you're ever receiving any kind of phone calls or text or emails that you just don't think are legitimate, or you're just not sure what you should be doing, please come and meet with someone in the Student Success Center, and we can maybe give you some advice. Is this real? Is this not? We really don't want you to be taken advantage of. So don't be afraid that if you're getting an email, most of these things that say you must pay within 30 days or we'll phone the police, all of that stuff are scams. So again, if you are contacted by anything like that, just keep in mind that we're here, that we can help you through that process. Canada is quite a safe place, but small petty theft does happen. So please be careful of your possessions, especially on campus. I see every day if I'm walking around, students will just leave their laptop while they go to the bathroom, or even if they go to class and leave their laptop and phone sitting on the table. Don't do that. That's way too trusting of people. So, if you have to step away from your study area, just pack up your things and make sure you have that with you. It's also just important to be mindful of your surroundings and always to be cautious. So, avoid walking at night by yourself, because we want to make sure that you are safe while you are here. It's also important that you're aware of local laws. Again, things like no open alcohol in public spaces, because if you are caught breaking a law, saying you're not from here is not a legitimate excuse. If, and we really hope this never happens, but if you ever witness something or need emergency services, just dial 911 and you can get connected with fire, police, or ambulance. So one really, really great website, so security.mcmaster.ca, would recommend that you check this out at some point. Again, this has information about consuming alcohol, how to protect yourself, your property, and just lots of information to sort of make sure that you are safe while you are here. So one thing that some students are interested in is something called the Ontario photo card. So if you are going to a bar or to purchase a drink or want some kind of photo identification that proves your age, and you do not want to carry your passport around, because again, your passport has your visa, and if it gets misplaced, it's a bit of a headache to replace. So you can apply for something called the Ontario photo card. It's similar to kind of like a driver's license photo identification. It does cost $35. It takes about a month or 6 weeks to get, but you can go to a Service Ontario store, and Service Ontario is sort of a provincial government office, and we do have a couple near campus. So just keep this in mind if you're not comfortable carrying your passport around with you, that this could be another option. On campus is very, very safe. We do have security services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on campus. On top of the actual staff that are here, you'll see these red sort of assistant towers or emergency poles. So if you're ever feeling uncomfortable, or even if you trip and hurt yourself, or if you see like an animal that's injured, we have lots of animals on campus, and you're just not sure who to call, you can always use these emergency assistant phones to get in touch with security. We also encourage you to download the McMaster Security app. So this is a great app because it sort of keeps you informed of happenings on campus, and probably the most useful reason to use it is, as Annette mentioned, we do often get a lot of snow, and so sometimes we get too much snow that we actually have to shut the school down because it's unsafe to get to and from campus. So the McMaster Security app is the best way to get notified of that. There's a student walk home program, so the SWAT program. This program is available during the school year, so September through April. And so in the evenings, if you want someone to walk you to your classroom or to your residence room, or even certain zones off campus, we do have volunteers that will help escort you if you're feeling uncomfortable walking alone. On campus, there's also the emergency first response team. So this is a group of individuals that are available to help you if there is ever sort of a medical emergency, or even if you just fall and injure yourself and you need some assistance. And so as I mentioned about smoking earlier, so McMaster has a zero smoking policy, meaning we're completely smoke free, and so that's indoors or outdoors. So if you do smoke or even vape, you aren't allowed to do that on campus, which means that you'd have to go off campus property to participate in those activities. Okay, and so while you're here, we do know that, sometimes you might get sick or you might not be feeling well, especially coming from a different place. You might be coming here and you might feel lonely. You might just not feel yourself. And know that in Canada, it's very acceptable and normal to, if you're ever feeling like this, seek out somebody. You can come speak with me or anyone in the Student Success Center. Just say, you know what, you're just looking to talk to somebody. And we do have a lot of great services that are available. So our Student Wellness Center, they are available on McMaster's main campus. And so they have doctors, nurses. So if you're ever feeling unwell, that's probably the best place that you can go to. We do encourage you to sort of have that healthy lifestyle. So included in your tuition is access to the DBAC, which is the athletic center on campus. And so you can learn a bit more about that if you go to marauders.ca. We also recognize that some people need spiritual support, so we do have a chaplaincy center on campus, as well as lots of different spiritual and religious groups that you can get involved in. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about how to get involved on campus coming up next. And I believe, is it Hansika and Prabjit, I think, are going to talk a little bit about this. Yes, there you are. Great.
So the International Student Services is basically all of us. The ISS works towards a smooth transition of international students into Canada and McMaster University. We have a lot of orientations, a lot of events, programs that are run all year round. So you will be getting a lot of emails from us. We have people from all around the world. Therefore, we are very strong about community and involvement. There is the immigration department in the International Student Services. We then have the Student Success Coach, which is Andrew. And then we have Anna, who deals with UHIP and all of the events that the International Student Services organizes. So the International Students Buddy Program is something that we're very excited about this year. It's been the oldest buddy program on campus, and it has still been going on. We're still trying to make it better, revamp it, and hopefully this year we have a lot of first-year international students signing up, and we are very excited to see all of you. We then have the Student Success Center, which is the SSC. It is located in Gilmore Hall, as mentioned by Annette. You can find a lot of support here when it comes to your academics. Sometimes we don't know how to write an essay, how to cite things, how to reference certain articles while we are submitting an essay. So this is the place where you can walk into and be like, I need academic support. Who should I go to? There is English conversation programs. So if English is not your first language, this is something that could be of help. Personal growth when it comes to how do I find a job? Where do I look for one? How should my resume look like? How should I approach someone who is hiring me? So there can be mock interviews. There can be cover letter writing. There's resume writing. So a lot of things that are offered by the Student Success Center. Again, they want the success of the student. Therefore, definitely visit this place. It is in Gilmore Hall, and that's where the International Student Services is as well.
Next, we have the School of Graduate Studies. So they provide support and resources to all graduate students. You are advised to visit the office within the first 1-2 weeks of you being on campus. Once school starts, you will receive weekly news about the events that are going on campus, and that would be the best way to keep in touch with your graduate community. Also, yeah, like I said, it is very important that you visit the office within the first 2 weeks of being on campus so that you can get to know more about getting the HSR bus pass and all that stuff. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to email asgrad@mcmaster.ca. Next, we have Model, which is McMaster's Office for the Development of English Language Learners. Basically, they provide free English language support for both undergrad and graduate students. They provide workshops which conclude all writing, speech, reading, and listening. They also have one-on-one consultation for students that need help. And I would advise anyone that need help with English to visit and get involved with Model. It would really benefit you. Next, we have the SAS, which is the Student Accessibility Services. This is basically support for students with disabilities. You can get extra time for exams and tests. You would receive support for note-taking. And to be eligible to be part of this program, you might need to provide doctor's letters. And please be advised that to receive this assistance, you would need to make an appointment, visit the office as soon as possible. And if you do have any questions, please do email sas@mcmaster.ca. Next, we have the MSU. It is McMaster Students Union. They represent over 24,000 undergrad students at McMaster. They recognize over 350 clubs, and McMaster has the largest clubs listing in the entire Ontario. So you will always find a club that embody your passion and personality. I would suggest you get involved with all these clubs on campus. You would have clubs that provide recreational activities, religious, spirituality, cultural, and academic support. They also recognize the EFIRT, Emergency First Response Team, and provide health and dental insurance. Next, we have the GSA, Graduate Student Association. It's basically the same thing as the MSU, but it's support for all the graduate students. There are also different clubs regarding topics around academic and cultural. They also provide the bus pass for graduate students, and like I said, the health and dental insurance. So do get involved with all these clubs, all this association. It would really help you feel a part of the McMaster community. And yeah.
So, sorry. So apart from the various clubs that we have, McMaster has 10 faculties. There is, I'm so sorry, there's engineering, there's commerce, humanities, kinesiology, and so many more. I think going into third year as an international student, my advice would be to get involved right in first year. There are clubs, there are faculties, there is so much happening on campus all the time. So there's nothing that should hold you back. People all around campus are very, very sweet. You have any problem, any doubt, you can reach out to absolutely anyone that you see on campus. I would definitely say that faculties is something that everyone looks forward to and connects with at a very different level. So definitely get involved with them. We then have the McMaster off-campus committee society, where not everyone is a part of it, but if you are an off-campus student, their membership fee is $10. They have a lot of events happening and a lot of discounts that you can get at restaurants, grocery stores. So one good resource to look at would be their website, which is macsoc.ca. It is very helpful. Again, discounts, students really like to save money, so that's a good way to do that if you're an off-campus student.
Next, we have the Mac Transition Program. It is exclusively for all first-year students that will be staying off campus. So you would need to sign up and pay a reasonable amount of fee. But what you basically get, you benefit the facilities that a student that would stay on residence. So you would gain access to residence buildings where you can use the common rooms. So common rooms usually have like pool tables, TV, and like all those fun stuff. So to be part of that, you would need to get the access card, and I'd really recommend doing this if you're staying off campus, because you could go to residence building, take breaks in between classes, and it would also be a great way to be part of the residence community.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. So that sort of concludes the formal part of our presentation. We will stick around for some Q&As after, but please remember we do have some more upcoming webinars. So in a couple of weeks, we have an academic expectations webinar that's just for undergraduate students. And then near the end of July, we're having a Q&A where we're going to have both current grad international students and current undergrad international students that will be available and to sort of share their experience and maybe give you some helpful tips of what was useful for them. So I would like to thank you for joining us today, as well as thank you to our panelists and to Anna for helping out in the back. So we will stick around for a few minutes because I see there are some questions. So let me just get to those now. Okay, so one, is there any free English courses for graduate students? So if language is something that you're maybe a bit concerned about, the model program that was talked about earlier is probably the best first step for you. So they have free workshops, free one-on-one consultations, and that's available to both undergrad and graduate students. So I would really recommend that you check them out as soon as you get to campus. Another question from a graduate student, where should I go when I get to campus for the first time to deal with anything official? So if it's anything official that has to do sort of with your studies, or if you have questions like that, you could either check into the grad studies office, or you could go directly to your faculty. If you've got questions more about, payments and that kind of thing, we do have separate departments for all of that. But probably the grad studies office is a good first step resource for you. And they're located in Gilmore Hall 212. So the MAC 1 program, I believe that is just for undergraduate students only, yes. Then we've got another question here. Are there any services for spouses to help them find jobs? I know in the Student Success Center, we only serve current students. Now you may, if you're a grad student, you may want to check with grad studies to see if they have any connections, maybe even in the community. But I would recommend on even the SSC website, we've got some really great tip sheets, sort of how to create a Canadian resume, how to search for jobs locally. So that might be a good resource for you. Okay, so it looks like that's all the questions that are coming in. So again, thanks very much everybody for attending, and we look forward to seeing you in the next webinar or in September when you arrive on campus. Okay, take care.